If you're wondering about selling your home while living in Orange County, then you're in the right place. On this channel, we're sharing all the tools for first-time home sellers and covering topics like, do I have to give money to the buyer? Should I accept an offer with an FHA loan? What happens if the appraisal comes in too low? What if the buyer has to sell their home? And what is the single most common mistake a seller makes? These are just some of the questions you must ask before selling your home so that you'll know how to put the most do-re-mi in your pocket when you sell your home. Be sure and check the description below for any free giveaways. Now let's get on with today's episode. Hi there, my name is Rami like Do-Re-Mi. I am a top producing agent, a best-selling author, and an award-winning interior designer. I've been doing real estate for well over 20 years across 4 states, and I have a few things that I'd like to share with you, a few insider tips for when you get ready to sell your home or maybe buy your next home. And stay with me till the end of the video. I'm going to share with you one crazy, stupid, silly, but true real estate story. It's the favorite part of what I do, and you won't want to miss it. Now let's get started. Okay, let me switch over to my laptop here. If you're thinking of selling your home in the near future, then there are a few questions to ask before moving forward. We're going to cover some of those today in this part 3 so that you're armed with the tools for first-time home sellers, even if this isn't the first home you've ever sold. Be sure and check out part 1 and part 2 for more juicy information on the questions you must ask before selling your home. Okay, so in today's part 3, here comes the next question that you must ask before selling your home. And that is, do I have to give money to the buyer? Well, it's a lesson we learned as little kids to share. But this is not child's play. When you're selling your home and a buyer asks you for money, this is called a seller concession. A seller concession allows a seller to contribute to a buyer's expenses. This could be cash toward new flooring or appliances. It could be furniture, even a car, a home warranty, repairs, or it could be an interest rate buy down so that the buyer can reach a more affordable mortgage payment. Now, one of the most common seller concessions is helping the buyer with their closing cost. This could be a significant amount of money for the buyer. And although you don't have to contribute a seller concession, it could make the difference between selling your home and not selling your home to a particular buyer. I always tell my own clients that just because they ask doesn't mean you have to gift them. You do have the right to say no, but keep in mind that they could walk away. So leave me a comment below and tell me if you're the kind of person who would give the buyer a concession to help them with their closing costs, or if you're the kind of person who would say, no way, no judgment here. I'm just curious. Leave me a comment below. Let me know what you would do. All right, here comes the next item. The next question you must ask before selling your home, should I accept an offer with an FHA loan? For my own clients, I usually say, yes, absolutely. An FHA loan is simply a government-backed mortgage. This type of loan has easier financial requirements that are often used by first-time buyers. So if your home is priced in a range that's comfortable for first-time buyers, you'll probably receive an offer with an FHA loan rather than a traditional loan. FHA is sometimes a better loan for these first-time buyers. The approvals are easier, the rates are better, and there's flexibility with their debt-to-income ratios. But as a seller, the appraisal process is a little different, and you might have concerns about having to do more repairs. This is because the buyers are required to move into a quote-unquote safe and livable home. If there are any significant problems like foundation, plumbing, electrical, or roof issues, then your house could get flagged by the appraiser, and then you'll receive a list of lender-required repairs. And then those issues must be fixed prior to closing, or the deal could be off the table completely. But there's an easy solution to this. Sell your house in the condition that you would expect to buy it. An FHA loan is every bit as viable as a conventional loan, and you would potentially be helping a buyer with their very first purchase. All right. Before we get to the next item, if this is your first time on the channel and you don't want to miss any tools for first-time home sellers, then take a minute to subscribe below, tap the bell for notifications. This will also help people just like you who want the best information. On this channel, we talk about how to put the most do-re-mi in your pocket when you sell your home. We get calls every single day from people just like you asking how to sell my home more quickly, and we love getting your calls. Whether you're looking to sell your house and move tomorrow or somewhere down the road, give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email, or schedule a Zoom call. We are happy to help, and those links are below. All right, let's move on to the next item. The next question that you must ask before selling your home: what happens if the appraisal comes in too low? Well, as you can see on this image, we often have very high expectations, and the reality is sometimes lower than our expectations. And what happens in the middle? Well, as you can see, disappointment. If this happens, if the buyer's appraisal comes in lower than the sales price, there are 4 ways that we can approach it. 1, and this is the most successful strategy, the seller agrees to sell for the appraised price, knowing that it will likely be an issue for any other buyer as well. How do you feel about this? Most sellers don't like it, just saying, but I like to prepare my own clients for this possibility, because if it doesn't appraise right now, it will likely be an issue for the next buyer. Now, if your buyer is paying cash, then the appraisal won't even be an issue, because cash buyers typically don't get an appraisal. Because appraisals are typically done to satisfy the new mortgage company that the value is there in case the buyer's default and the house goes into foreclosure. So a cash buyer might be ideal. However, sometimes cash buyers are speculators and not really committed to the transaction, as they continue looking for other houses even while yours is in escrow. But if your buyer is, shall we say, a regular person who's getting a regular mortgage, then the mortgage company won't lend money on a house that's overpriced. And this is where you'll have to decide whether you simply want to sell for the appraised price, which more often than not reflects the fair market value anyway. Now, our second option, if the appraisal comes in too low, is the buyer could pay the difference between the appraised price and your asking price. Do you like this option better? Some do. Trouble is, it isn't necessarily a successful strategy, because I know that my own buyers don't want to pay more than what a house is worth. But in a hot market, this is what sellers often demand, even if it means going back on the market and looking for a buyer who is willing to pay more than what a house is worth. If your house doesn't appraise, here's the third option. If it comes in too low, the transaction is canceled, and we start all over with a fresh slate looking for a new buyer. We're losing time and potentially money if we go for this option, though. However, in some markets, the home values are literally increasing day by day. So it really depends on whether we're in a seller's market. The fourth option, and probably the least successful strategy, the appraisal can be challenged by the lender. I won't go into depth into this option because it rarely works, but it is an option. Now, I remember a time when the market was super hot and appraisers were getting burned out left and right, taking time off or leaving the industry altogether. And there were junior appraisers coming up, and they were missing the mark sometimes on these appraisals. And so sometimes these appeals were valid, but for the most part, 95% of the time, and even more than that, this is an option that just isn't very successful. So as you can see here on this slide, this number 1 option is the most successful strategy. It's the best one to choose. The seller, that's you, agrees to sell for the appraised price, knowing that it would likely be an issue for any other buyer as well. All right, let's go on to the next item. The next question that you must ask before selling your home: what if the buyer has to sell their home? You know, some buyers need to get the equity out of their current home to be able to afford the new home, and so they write their offer contingent upon finding a replacement home. This is called a buyer contingency. And while it may not be ideal, if it's the only offer you have, well, it might be worth considering. If your buyer has to sell their home first, this puts you at a disadvantage for sure. Everything rides on their being able to find a buyer for their own home, and you'll have zero control over that. So depending on the market, you could be sitting and waiting for a while if the market isn't moving. If the market is brisk, well, maybe it won't be a problem. But what if they do sell their home right away, but it falls out of escrow? Well, you're losing time and money. If, however, you need extra time, let's say that you're moving overseas, which can be a lot to coordinate, well, then this could work to your benefit. What I don't like about a buyer having to sell their home first is that it puts you at an utter lack of control. So I generally recommend that the buyer go find a bridge loan or some other solution so that we can get your escrow moving along toward a successful close. All right, here comes the next item. The next question you must ask before selling your home: what is the single most common mistake a seller makes? At the top of the list is pricing the home unrealistically high. Yes, it's important to be realistic when determining a price for your home. A common mistake is to price it a few $1,000s higher. And maybe that's just human nature for the seller to want the most money, but the buyer wants to buy it for the least. So here's the thing to think about. If buyers think your home is overpriced, they'll automatically offer lower or maybe not offer at all. Remember, there's a selling curve, and if your home stays on the market more than 30 days, it has a much slimmer chance of selling because buyers will assume there's something wrong with it. See there at the top of the curve where it says 30 days? You'll want to sell on the upswing of that graph on the left side, because once it goes past 30 days, you can see how the activity will just drop right off. So price it well from the start. Price it well before it gets to the top of the curve. That doesn't mean you have to price it too high to leave room for negotiations. Just price it well. Price it at fair market value, or even better, just a little below fair market price to get a lot more attention so that you can flesh out the best price early on the curve. Your best opportunity to sell will be within the first 30 days. And you've heard me say this before, a home will always sell within 2 weeks of being priced right. So price it well, straight out of the gate. So as we're looking at the most common mistake a seller can make, I do have another one I want to talk about. The other biggie is not preparing the home for showings. If the home is dirty, cluttered, or smelly, then buyers aren't inspired to envision it as their own, and they will, unfortunately, walk right out the front door before ever coming inside. If I had a nickel for every time one of my clients said at the front door, "Let's go, I don't even want to look at this house," I'd be very rich right now. So first and foremost, price your house right in the beginning to get buyers out to see it, and then make sure it's prepared by decluttering, cleaning, and making sure it doesn't have any odors. Leave me a comment below and tell me if you're the kind of person who would prepare your home for showings by cleaning and decluttering and making it presentable, or if you're the kind of person who says, "You know what, they can take it or leave it. I'm exhausted and I have too much to do already. If they want to buy the house, they'll make an offer no matter whether it's cleaned up or not." No judgment here. I'm curious. Just leave me a comment below. All right. In each of these episodes, I've promised to share with you the lighter side of real estate by featuring one crazy, stupid, silly story. These stories are my favorite part of real estate. So what do we have for today? All right. This one comes from Melissa in Los Angeles, and she says, "I did a BPO on a home in foreclosure." Now, for those of you who might not know, a BPO stands for Broker's Price Opinion. Sometimes the banks have a foreclosure and they need an agent's or a broker's opinion on the price. So we go and we see the home and determine that home's value. Anyway, Melissa says, "I did a BPO on a home in foreclosure. We had a difficult tenant who refused to leave, and so I offered a cash for keys deal to help them get moved out. It all seemed to go well, but when I came back later, the house had been burned down." Yep, I've had some similar experiences. It always amazes me that when a tenant stops paying rent, they can somehow make it the landlord or the owner's fault and then retaliate, making the situation even worse. Gosh, I would love to know how that one turned out in the end. All right, let's move on. Remember, whether you're looking to sell your house and move tomorrow or next year or somewhere down the road, you can give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email, or schedule a Zoom call. We'll talk about how to put the most do-re-mi in your pocket. And when we see each other, you can ask about the 3 options for getting more do-re-mi from the sale of your home. I call these the 3 do-re-mi options. One of these is just right for you, and the other 2 won't be a fit. I'd love to go over these with you in person. Thanks for watching. Be sure and check the description below for any free giveaways, and I look forward to chatting with you soon.